Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Dennis, and I want to welcome you to this special presentation. It's probably the most important that you will ever hear, because it affects all of us, everybody in the world. And I just learned about that issue this morning, and I thought we better get some information out to everyone and put it in archive so you can send your friends to the site, have them update themselves. We are talking about, folks, a major event that has been suppressed through the media and through all information outlets. I have with me a specialist who is totally knowledgeable. I'll ask her to explain her background. We're not going to use names at this point, but there are some pictures that will be attached later on. So you will be able to access those, and she will be describing those things as we go. If you're on the internet, you will be able to see the pictures as she goes along. I want to turn the time over now to a specialist who has considerable expertise, enough to impress me with the background and the knowledge that she has regarding this event. Folks, I can't urge you enough to contact your friends and family. Let them know about this immediately. Time is of the essence. In fact, we are out of time now to prepare for this. Okay, please proceed. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. My name is Patty Broussard. 7 years in the military, former sergeant, missile systems, communications, satellite uplinks, that sort of thing. Did a lot of work for NASA, as well as places like Lockheed Martin, Polaris, and whatnot. Built robots, all that. We currently have inbound our second sun. We are a dual sun system. Our second sun, it comes around every, 32 to 3,600 years. There's been a cataclysm. That is why the remains of the pyramids and whatnot have been left behind during each successive. There's been 5 of them that we know of. Anyhow, our second sun is inbound with 7 planets. Now, NASA said was true. The sun is not going to come into system. In other words, it's not going to come in and plow into planets or anything. What it is going to do is it's got 7 planets, and their orbits overlap ours. And this needs to be prepared for as best you can. The dust that's being pushed ahead of it's already hitting us. And when it ramps up to enough of an impact, like it's doing to Mars right now, we're going to lose our electric grid. So if the electric grid goes down, we lose all our nuclear power plants. You need to prepare for that. Basically, it's underground or under Earth at the minimum. The reason for that is...
You're talking about surviving this event. We need to go underground or under Earth, okay?
The reason why is a pole shift has already started. It's going to complete during this event that's coming up. August is the month that things start getting really bad. They say August through November, roughly. But it's going to be 6 years of bad times. The reason why you need to be underground or in a cave or something of that nature, when the pole shift goes, we lose our magnetic shield. That means UVA, UVB, UVC coming directly from the sun, full blast, just like it is on Mars right now. It's going to be hitting the surface. You don't want to be out in that. As will microwaves from the sun.
Question: why have not we been informed about this?
50 years ago, NASA informed them of this. they built dumps, deep underground military facilities. They have enough room for the elite and the government. They've been building them for 50 years. That's where they're planning on hiding. And the heck with us. And they've been storing food and oxygen. And the past 2 years, they've been running the plants that make nuclear fuel rods to power their domes. 300 tons a year each. And actually, it's the making of the nuclear fuel rods is what destroyed the ozone, because they are exempt from the CFC laws. So they're going to leave the public on their own. Right now, as of today, they are stationing our troops around the dome entrances. And they've brought troops in from Israel and from Russia to deal with the public, because they won't be afraid to shoot at you. Do not riot. That's what they want. Obama wants to institute martial law to round up any people who protest and put them in the FEMA camps. That's what they were built for.
So they've known about all of this for a long time. They've prepared for themselves, and they're planning the extermination of the rest of us.
They want 500,000 people. That's on the Georgia Guidestone that they built. And they want complete, utter control over whoever's left, which means getting chipped.
Chipped meaning putting one of their chips in us neck or otherwise, so they know where we are.
They know where you are. They know a lot more than that, which I'm not even going to get into this because it's not relevant as far as mind control and all that. They have that ability.
Okay. So you were going to go into evidence of how you know all this is occurring.
I have access to just about every satellite we have in orbit. And I remotely took over an entire observatory and used a telescope and took pictures. NASA took pictures too, but they only took pictures and said only the sun is going to go around the system, and that is true. But they lied via omission because they didn't mention the 7 planets around it, which I point out in some of these pictures I took. Is there any other way I can get more pictures out there?
Yeah, we'll add them later.
Okay. Questions?
Okay. Do you have the first picture up? We're going to pull up the pictures now so I can see them and we can ask questions.
Okay.
These are the ones that they will be able to see if they're listening now or on the rebroadcast, and you can add more. The problem is we need to put labels on them so we know what we're looking at.
Okay. The thermographic one, which is the blue one with the blue background and all the red on it, it shows 3 very hot objects. The one on the top, the middle top, the smallest one, that's Jupiter. And our sun is not in that picture at all, other than to say the biggest one is our second sun, which I'll call Sol too, because our sun is called Sol. The object to the right, that is the one that's bigger than Jupiter by at least 4 times. I won't be able to tell until it actually crosses through Jupiter's orbit, because these are still outside of Jupiter's orbit, but they are pushing a lot of debris, all that red stuff. That's hitting Mars already. It's being bombarded. I've put pictures up of Mars, of the debris hitting its atmosphere, what little it has of it, as well as a picture of the rover.
Picture with the white rings?
That one there. That's the pole of Mars, taken from orbit. But the one with the hole in the center, that's the debris hitting Mars' atmosphere, causing electromagnetic discharge
what the ancients called the thunderbolts of Zeus.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen here. Only worse, because we have an actual atmosphere. And a lot of electric stuff running around on the ground, telephone poles are going to catch fire. And the wires on them will melt and hit the ground. This is already happening.
And wood houses, you said, will just burn up?
Eventually, yeah, because of the heat. Once the poles start, the rest of the pole shift switches, and we lose our electromagnetic shield entirely. You're getting UVA, UVB, and UVC, plus ultraviolet. It's going to be pouring down on the surface. It's like taking a house and sticking it in a microwave.
So I don't know if Dr. Taylor is aware that the pioneers were not permitted to build houses of wood. They were instructed to use stone or brick or some other substance to build their houses. That was 100 years ago.
Okay. You say it's going to happen in August, so we're saying there is no more time to prepare, or we have 1 week, we have 3 weeks. What do you predict? Getting from
I'm predicting the 11th.
Where it is now. I'm sorry?
I'm predicting the 11th is when it's going to become to the point where nobody can ignore it. I mean, we can already see.
So what happens? You said already we can see the evidence in the sunrise and sunset.
Yep. When our
what do we look
lights them up
there?
They're round globes. They look like. Well, the last time I looked, they were about maybe a tenth the size of the moon on the side of the sun.
Wow.
Yeah.
Those are the
and they're only getting bigger.
Planets. Okay.
And like I said, the one that's supposed to swing by us, which apparently it does every time, is more than 4 times the size of Jupiter. They've speculated that the asteroid belt between us and Jupiter used to be a planet that got hit dead on. That's what created the asteroid belt.
Wow.
And they've got names for these. They're written on the walls of the pyramids.
Okay. So we can see the things coming in the sunrise and sunset, but by the 11th, you say we're going to have all of this radiation and everything coming, so we won't be able to go outside. The power lines will be broken. All electricity will be off.
The link I gave you to Spam 3D, that's the only place right now I know of that's doing live tracking is Europe. And we have stuff coming in right now.
Okay.
There's 12 stations there that are monitoring the atmosphere, and they're picking up debris coming in already. This is not particles. This is the bigger stuff, like Mars is getting bombed with. It's already starting to hit us. As in right now.
Okay, so what should we do now?
Prepare.
Build
food, water, and get under either concrete or earth. Stone, earth.
How deep
Preferably
underground?
with earth over it, because earth absorbs radioactivity and everything like that as well. Because when we're losing the power grid, all the nukes are going to end up just like Fukushima. And that's 3 coriums miles down in the ground pushing radioactive steam. Now, they say we have 100 working nuclear reactors. In the U.S., it's more than that. Mass is listed as having one. We actually have 5 reactors, only one of which is shut down, but it still has all the fuel sitting there. Your colleges, all your big colleges, all have nuclear reactors. You don't want to try and shelter right beside one of them. Just like, you don't want to, try and shelter right beside a nuclear reactor, that generates power. Plus, I posted a list, a map today with the sites that make rods and things like that that also have reactors. They don't produce power, but they actually have reactors that are actually bigger than nuclear power plants.
There's a turned-off nuclear generator reactor 15 miles from where I am. So that's too close. Is that what you're saying?
That's way too close.
Yeah.
You want at least 150 miles.
Yeah, 150 miles is a kill zone around the reactors in Japan.
And that's the initial kill zone, not the fallout zone.
Right. Let's talk about the radiation levels across North America you were describing to me earlier.
They're gradually ramping up. 200 over this past year was getting to be normal, 200 counts per minute, CPM. But the entire middle of the United States right now is in the 400s, 500s, some sites as high as 700. That's not good. And looking at the gamma, looking at the beta, we're pushing between 100 and 200, which is very unhealthy. Basically, when it comes to the beta stuff, 12 has become the norm for background, even though it used to be 0.02 before they started playing with bombs. And we're getting readings a couple hundred. The worst of the fallout from Fukushima that hit the West Coast was putting out numbers in 700. And that's Bakersfield, California. And they have over 100 people a week dying there. And this has been going on for 2 years. All the news media places and whatnot moved out of there. That's how bad it is. They just relocated. Because you can't survive it.
Where do they get
Not over the long term.
I know radwatch.info and HARP status. What are some of the sites that people can find the maps other than like say the Facebook groups?
The easiest one to get to is called NetC. www.netc.com. There's a bunch of radioactive signs there. You put your mouse on it, click on it, and it'll tell you what it's reading.
But by city, by region?
No, these are sites that are on the across the entire U.S., but they're monitor sites. They don't give you every town. They don't give you every city. These are where their monitors are.
That are available for review.
To look at for live readings.
Yeah.
If you go to the EPA, their site all their monitoring goes to a server, and then they dish up edited RADs. What I post in my group at World Radiation Rising is I go directly to the equipment, and I pull the equipment directly. I do a screen capture and save it. So I get the actual readings.
WorldRadiationRising.com?
No, that's on Facebook. It's my group on Facebook.
Oh, Facebook. Okay.
Yeah, Facebook search. Is it a closed group? it'll still show up on the search engines.
It'll show up on the search. I'd have to add you. I had to do that because they tried to crash it.
Sure.
And we had people I added that came in and started deleting stuff.
Now, the people in Europe are saying the chemtrails, you know, a lot of people who study this for years are saying the chemtrails are to prevent us from seeing what's actually, you know, appearing in the sky until it's too close.
You take chemtrails, you put aluminum and you put strontium in them, and then release them. That's going to attract a lot of your then when you hit it with HAARP, you're vibrating the metal. Anytime you vibrate something, you heat it. And using that, they've been able to direct a lot of the radiation and dump it in specific spots. Because if you bring that whole cloud of radioactivity up to certain different levels, is where your upper winds go in a lot of different directions. You can pretty much direct it to drop where you want it. Bakersfield, California is one of the places they figured, you know, there's really no assets in place that are going to be damaged by dumping it there. So they dumped a lot there. The main thing is that it's getting cut in two streams. One goes south and down to Bakersfield and then across the lower U.S. The other one went up across the top of the U.S. because Monsanto is paying them not to dump radioactivity on their GMO corn.
Which is Kansas, Nebraska, and Iowa.
Yeah. And, of course, once the lower one comes across, they have to heat it a second time to keep it from being dumped on D.C. But anything south of Atlanta is very difficult to do because the air is already warm. They've messed up once and dumped a whole bunch on Atlanta, right on the CDC.
Now, I wanted to mention NEXRAD because the NEXRAD is an ionizing, essentially they look like cell towers, but by ionizing the air, when you ionize, you know, an element such as, you know, air or water, then whatever is in that air or water is excited. The molecules are excited. And so essentially these NEXRAD towers allow them to ionize the air near the ground. Does that pull the radiation to those spots?
I think they're doing that because of what Fukushima's spewing. They're trying to force the plutonium through its decay chain.
Right.
So we can't get evidence of plutonium on the ground.
Okay.
The initial blast of Fukushima number 3 had 56 rods in the pool of plutonium breeder rods. That's 1/3 plutonium-239, 240, and 241. 240 stifles nuclear blast, causes fizzles. 241 is really dirty. It's so dirty that you can't work with it, and the output frags out electronics. The 239 is what they want. They were sent there to be cleaned.
Weapons
There's
grade.
56 in the pool. The hydrogen blast compresses the rods. And now, the plutonium in the rods is held apart by springs. It only takes 6.2 kilos of plutonium-241 to go boom. Just put it together. That's it. And 10.6 kilos of plutonium-239 to go boom. That's what happened to the pool of 3. That was a fizzled nuclear blast.
Okay, so let's get off of that and discuss.
Well, let me say one thing. In that the first 2 weeks of Fukushima, it put 12 tons of plutonium into the air. That is
it only
that's
takes 10 kilos, right?
To go boom. And 212 went in the ground when number 3 melted out. And that's what's being spewed. 56
okay,
rods
so that's
at 700 pounds of material each.
That'll happen to the reactors in the United States?
Yes.
Okay, so let's move on to now. Is this 100% sure going to happen?
Yes.
There's no getting around it.
No, I've also posted all the NASA employment and everything. They've been letting people go left and right so they could go prepare. The ones that do not have a seat in the dome got let go, so they could go and dig a hole and build a concrete style, bunker. But
Is
not
this
in the
why
ground.
they're
Not
pulling
deep
the
in the ground.
ambassadors out of all countries?
That's where one of the government's gone wrong. They've built these really deep bunkers. They're going to get crushed. You don't want to be deep underground any more than you want to be out on the surface.
Right. Right. They fracked themselves. Go ahead, Dr. Taylor. Or Dennis. I'm sorry.
It's going to be worse than they figured because they've been fracking all in up and down both sides of the Mississippi. The Gulf is a giant caldera, and when you make oil by breaking down biological matter, that releases methane. Methane builds up in the top of the cavern where they get oil from. It goes solid by pressure, not by temperature. They've punched holes in that. It's leaking. They can't stop it. The pressure at the wellhead of the pipe coming out of the ocean bottom is 100,000 psi, pounds per square inch of methane is coming out. You mix that with petrochemicals and you get the right mix of oxygen, it goes boom. It's what we call a monopropellant. Add to the fracking they've been doing, when that does go up, you're going to have liquefaction. So you're going to have water, coming all the way up the Mississippi, 200-300 miles wide, all the way up to the Great Lakes. That's why I'm saying high ground. The mountains that run up just to the west of the Midwest is where they've put primarily most of their bases. You don't want to be around them either, because they're gonna be crushed, and you're probably going to end up with massive sinkholes with a nuclear blast because they're running nuclear power systems in those.
So what should we look for on the 12th?
Drinking water.
But what's going to happen is as the dust and impacts our atmosphere heat up, you're going to lose sight of the sun. Every place is going to be clouded over until it gradually builds up momentum and electrical charge. At that point, it'll start, you'll have lightning bolts coming down everywhere, destroying things. The poles will go on fire and things of that nature. Right now, before it gets too bad, at sunrise and sunset, you can see these planets inbound around the sun.
Okay, so you said more food and water and energy sources, or what are we supposed to do for that?
No, you don't. Well, if you want to have an energy source for later, you need to Faraday cage it, which is basically encase it in copper mesh. Otherwise, it's going to get destroyed because this stuff is going to, blow all our power systems, blow up all the transformers.
Right.
And while it takes 20 minutes to make one in a manufacturing facility, transformers take 2 years to hand wind to make one. And we're already at a shortage.
So I need to go buy a transformer and put a copper wire cage around it.
And a generator. You need a generator.
A generator.
Because generators are really easy to convert over to burn hydrogen, gas, which you can get from water. They sell kits.
Okay.
Buy one.
Okay, get a kit to convert
water to oxygen and hydrogen.
what about an ozone generator? That's what we were looking at in 2005.
Wouldn't do you any good.
What I'm talking about is combining ozone with water. You get H2O2 and can use that as propellant.
See here, just to switch over, any gas running item, you can basically just drill a hole, put a jet in it, and hook your hydrogen directly to it without having to modify the whole thing. You put the jet on your air intake, and that's it. She'll run on hydrogen with no gas in it whatsoever, without having to modify anything or build anything.
Do you have a site for that, Patty?
Just anybody that searches, hydrogen power. There's hundreds of them out there. They're on Amazon and all the rest. There's tons of them out there for sale.
Well,
they can't
sell
them legally because the government took the patent. So if you try and sell them at a store, they'll arrest you for patent infringement.
And they shut down the store.
Mm-hmm. So they can only sell them online, privately, from one person to another. And there are people out there making them for sale.
My dad used to hand wind generators back in the 40s, but he never taught me how.
It's easy. Just buy a generator at Home Depot or Lowe's or any home center. They're really easy to convert the gas engine over to run hydrogen.
But you still have to have a Faraday cage.
Don't reinvent the wheel. Buy the hydrogen
you still have to have a
kit.
Faraday cage.
Well, that you got to make, and that ain't going to be cheap. Otherwise, any electronic or electrical appliance is going to be fried. Anything that's electrical or electronic that you want to keep, computers and whatnot, they all have to go in a Faraday cage, or they're going to get cooked. And it don't matter if you're in a cave, they'll get cooked. The very atmosphere is going to become so electrically charged it would fry it. That's why the more ground you got between you, the better, because it's also going to cause people to become disorientated. It's much the same as when you have a transformer blow up. If you have people sitting, walking next to them, their mind becomes confused. They become befuddled because your mind is electrical. You put too much current around it, it reduces your ability to even be able to think.
Yep, been there.
Okay, so if this doesn't happen, we go on with life as normal. If it does, then everything, we better plan to die or prepare to live.
Yeah, this it's not a question. I mean, if you go back and you look at the dating on all of the relics that have been found, you kind of got to do a study on this, because most of your museums have been hiding a whole bunch of evidence going back 300 million years that they have in hand. This has happened over and over and over again. Like I said, it's happened at least 5 times that we know of. And generally, around 87% of people die off each time.
Okay.
Each one of your pyramids is something that was created by a specific time period in between these solar or galactic events, call them. And we've yet we were supposed to, evolve beyond this and take over control of our environment. We have the ability, we don't have the will. Most people don't have the will, I should say. It's got to be a collective effort.
Right.
Post-cataclysm, with enlightened beings, we can actually, use the powers our minds have to make the radiation go away. There's another unique issue coming with this pole shift, it's going to be shifting up to Alaska. Now, because of the tilt of the Earth, right now, all the energy that's picked up by our magnetic field tries to enter the South Pole, which is covered with ice. Fresh ice, no salt in it. Fresh water does not conduct electricity. Salt water does. When it switches and goes to the lake up there in Alaska, the energy will be able to enter the Earth again. You have a period of buildup and a period of decline of energy. When it enters the pole, like it did when all the pyramids were built, each time those pyramids were built, and all over the world, were when it was coming, the south magnetic pole was in Alaska. That revitalizes the ley lines, repumps energy into them.
I just wanted to mention, Dr. Taylor, if we give out the preparedness site, see, the government uses ready.gov, and anyone can go to that site and get all kinds of useful information that was good, say, 10, 20 years ago. This is how we prepared. When we call this readyornot.gov, essentially we're looking at hopefully producing a series between now and the 11th. It depends on how much time we have to record. But there's various networks that we have across the country and around the world that become part of this readyornot.gov as a rebuttal to the government schemes to, herd everyone into refugee camps.
Well, how are they going to do that if electrical systems are destroyed? They're not going to have any vehicles running.
They got
unless
diesels.
they protect.
They have diesels which don't require any electrical at all. Military vehicles run on diesel by compression. They fire.
1960s, there's enough muscle car, enthusiasts that, before cars had electronics.
That's why the Pentagon's actually the biggest buyer of oil. They buy more oil than all the oil that's used to produce for consumer gas.
Sure.
To run the military.
But I wanted to give out the site Provident Living because it's the most effective way for people to network in their known neighborhoods with people who are preparing, without them, because I've heard people say, well, we'll just find somebody that stored food and we'll, we'll take it from them, and they can say what they want.
Yeah, don't be vocal about what you have. Do not be vocal about what you have. And the recent laws that they've passed since January, effectively, or so they claim, gives them the right to come in and take everything you own. All your food, your car, your house, everything. That's why the laws that got passed about making it illegal to have gardens in your yard.
Yep.
They don't want us to survive.
Well, we got about 3 minutes, but I think that this is a useful initial discussion, and I appreciate you guys putting this together.
You take care of your family and you prepare, because that's what it comes down to. If you tell everybody about this, they're going to know you're prepared. And it could end up being the life of you or your offspring.
Now, my daughter lives in Tampa Bay, Florida. She's right on the beach. So that's going to be totally flooded, right?
That's going to be totally flooded. It's going to be going. It's going to go underwater and stay underwater. I've also posted maps that have already been issued to the United States Navy. That's how sure this is. They actually printed the maps up and issued them to the entire U.S. Navy of what's going to be underwater. Only I think it's going to be worse than what they projected.
I do too. But I think it's going to be, like I say, with the sinkholes, you're going to end up with lakes all over, in the middle of the desert. For example,
It's
water
not going to be lakes.
up
It's going to be ocean. It's going to be an inland sea.
Well, it was before.
So yeah, the bottom salt flats used to be a sea.
Yeah. Yeah. It's happened before, and it took me a while. In fact, Larry and I used to talk about this when we worked at the prison.
Okay.
When Lake Bonneville emptied.
We got 1 minute left.
Okay.
So
when do we want to try, schedule? We talk about it off the air. We can throw it out there now. Should we plan to come back here tomorrow, or?
Well,
come back
tomorrow's
here
Sunday.
and I'll have
let's say Monday.
Okay.
Same time?
11 o'clock.
11 a.m. Central?
Or let's say, 12 o'clock, actually. 12 o'clock Central. Then that gives me time to
prepare. Okay.
To wake up and get things ready. And anything that you want on this, email them to me so we can get, or put them on my Facebook so we can get them moved into position and everybody can look at them.
Okay, I'll try.
If you can't put labels,
I may have to
talk about them.
You may have to come to my site to get things up. I might have to talk to you specifically because they're not letting me post anything else on your site.
Sure.
They've cut me off.
Right. Okay. And would Tuesday
like
be
I
better
said,
so we can
They don't want me going out live on the air.
Well, we're going to get you on the air as often as you're available. But I think we can be ready by Monday. We got this ready in a couple hours. So, we only had 3 hours today. We pulled it together. Thank you, guys. We'll just talk on the phone after.
Okay. Everyone listening to this, be prepared for updated information as we go along, and stay tuned for your own survival. Thank you for listening. And thank you to our guest speaker, Patty Broussard, who has all the knowledge and research put into this to save us time. Go prepare, everyone. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.